welcome to Life Coaching on the Move. I'm your host, Fiske, a life coach, trainer, speaker, motivational speaker, podcaster, as you know, and YouTuber. If you know somebody that might benefit from this content, but they don't like audio, they don't like podcasts, or they don't know how to listen to things, they prefer YouTube and the visual, then give them the details and they can watch different presentations I've put on YouTube. Much more theory-based, those ones. Very helpful. This is a podcast about my thoughts, about stories of other clients, examples, much more chatty, this one, than the YouTube presentations, which are much more structured. Welcome along. If you're new to this podcast, I do literally just talk from the heart. I don't often know what I'm going to say before I say it. And it's very raw and authentic, and you just get lots of stories from the hundreds of clients that I've coached, plus my own family scenarios and my own personal learnings that I've drawn on. So it's all very, very real. I don't edit. You get all sorts of background noises. So I'm delighted that you've come along now. If you like what you hear, please check out the website, www.milestone-coaching.co.uk, where there's loads on there, blog, the YouTube channel. If we're out of lockdown when you're listening to this, there are free workshops that I often put up in the Hampshire, UK area. You might want to have a little look at that, and also all the services I offer, such as online programs that you can download and work through yourself. There's a really, really good one. I would highly recommend the stress program. It's a 7-module program, really in depth. There's so much content there for you to do, own and work at your own pace, in your own time, do from home or in the boardroom of your company, or if you've got a stressed member of staff that maybe could be going off sick or has gone off sick with stress or has been signed off, then that might be worth the investment of purchasing that for them so that they can work through it and cope with the stress much better, much sooner, get well again. There's also a shorter one on time management, so if you also have a person that could benefit from some better time management strategies, that's there on there for sale. Today's podcast is all about how to sort out your thoughts by the technique that I would strongly recommend as one of the best skills I've ever learnt, and that most people ever learn, which is asking yourself the right questions. It's all about asking yourself what's going on, but also if you listen to this, you may well learn strategies that you can use outwardly with family members by asking the right questions, or customers or colleagues, or all sorts of people actually. Being able to ask great questions is a massive skill to have, huge benefits. So listen to this week's podcast, and if you like it, please rate and review it to help others find it, or tell people about it, put it on your social media, and let your friends know, because it may be just what they need right now. Anyway, I'm going to move straight into this week's episode. There'll be a slight gap, but bear with, and then the episode will kick in. Let's move on. So today I'm encouraging you to have a bit of a declutter. I'm encouraging you to have a bit of a tidy up, a bit of a spring clean. Now, at the moment, we're in the middle of COVID-19, and I don't know about you, but during this time, I have found myself doing all sorts of jobs that I've wanted to do for ages, been meaning to do for ages, but just don't have the time kind of excuse. And of course now we do have the time, and we're at home much more. So yesterday I sorted a cupboard that has annoyed me for such a long time, and it felt so therapeutic afterwards. Turf out the rubbish and tidy up what I wanted to keep, and now everything's in order. I can see everything, and it's all within date, and I'm not killing anybody because it's expired, and it feels good. And we've been doing that in the garage, we've been doing that in the garden. I've got tidy wardrobes, I've no longer got clothes I haven't worn in years, etc. And it feels good. And you may well relate to this. It may well be very topical for you too. But here's the question. Have you been doing that with the biggest asset that you've got? Have you been doing it with the thing that is the most important thing in your life? both your past, your present and your future. Your happiness, your anxiety, your calm, your stress, your productivity, everything. The thing that is the most crucial thing. Have you been decluttering that? Have you been having a real tidy up and spring clean of that? Because if it's the most important thing, and we haven't, we've allowed it still to be unchecked and chaotic and cluttered and messy, then we're going to carry on feeling potentially messy, chaotic and cluttered. And the thing I'm talking about, of course, for any of you that have followed me in the past and listened to previous episodes will know that what I'm alluding to. I'm alluding to our minds. If we don't keep a check on our thoughts and our mindset, it's a bit like not keeping check of your toddler. Or your young puppy. They just run riot. They've got the freedom, no boundaries, run riot. It's leaving a toddler with all sorts of potential dangers in the house. The stairgate's not closed. The cupboard under the sink with all the chemicals doesn't have a lock on it. The plugs aren't all out of reach, etc. You wouldn't do that with a toddler. You would make sure it's childproof. You wouldn't do that with a puppy. You would make sure the front door was closed so that the puppy wouldn't run onto the road, for example. And yet, sometimes we leave our mind to just run riot unchecked, without really being mindful of what it's saying, about being mindful of what patterns it's running, what habit thinking it's running, what it's feeding you. Because as any of you who follow me know, or who have worked with me one-to-one will know, I firmly believe, it's been found, it's been proven that our thoughts are at the base of everything we do or don't do. If we're running good, helpful, empowering, encouraging thoughts, then we're going to feel empowered, helped, encouraged and confident and calm and less anxious. If we're running negative thoughts, unhelpful thoughts, disempowering thoughts, self-doubting thoughts, fed up thoughts, all of those sorts of things, negative thoughts, then that's how we're going to feel. We can't feel positive in life if we're running really negative thought patterns. Equally, if we're running positive thoughts all the time, helpful thoughts, strong, confident, determined thoughts, clean thoughts, and empowering thoughts, then we can't feel so negative. We can't feel down, because the two go hand in hand. So with all this time on our hands, you may not have that time. I do accept that some people don't, because they've got some young children at home. They're having to homeschool and work and run the home, etc. So for some people, this is a very stressful time, i.e. they don't have surplus time. But for others who are furloughed and they're at home, they may have more time on their hands than they've ever had before. And this, therefore, for them, is the great opportunity to grab this and tidy up your thought patterns. I would say, though, if you are one of the former with, children at home and homeschooling and trying to keep a job and trying to keep a home and you're stressed, this may be even greater need for you when it's quiet, the children are in bed, or first thing in the morning, or when you're doing the ironing or something, to be listening to this and actually working on it anyway, because actually it may be more helpful to you currently with your stress and everything else, the difficulties that are coming with this. It may be just what you need when you can find 15, 20 minutes, 10 minutes a day to be working on this. Now, what strategy to use? Well, for this, to have a good tidy up and a declutter, it's not a one-off. It's not like the cupboard that I was working on yesterday, where I just turf everything out, get it all out, clean it, brush all the debris out, wipe up the shelf, etc., and decide what I don't want. The broken things, the out-of-date things, the unwanted things, stale things, and bin them, and then put back in neatly in order where I could see the things I wanted. Simple. Job done. 10-15 minutes. It's complete. Well, this isn't quite like that, insofar as you can't just go inside, check your thoughts, check your habit thinking and your patterns, tidy them up, and then walk away. This is ongoing. I suppose really it's a bit like what I've also been doing. It's a bit like tending a garden. You don't just go out and weed the garden and forget it for the year. Weather that we've got at the moment means we've got to water some of the plants in tubs and weed them. Some of the plants we've been using some of our friends' horse manure to feed them because the soil's not great. So we've been feeding some of the plants, cutting the grass, cutting the hedges back. They're getting all unruly and out of control. So you cut things back, you deadhead things, you weed things, you water things, you feed things, etc. So it's a bit like tending a garden. We've got to constantly do it. And in a sense, that's what our mindset is. So what I'm suggesting that you do is to pay some attention to what's going on in your thoughts and tidy up the mindset and the habit thinking, but do it on an ongoing basis. So what is perfect about this time now, perhaps while we're in lockdown, and maybe if you're furloughed or you've got more time or you're more stressed, then do it anyway because you would benefit greater from it, is to get into the habit of doing it now. So start now, get into the habit of it now so that when life returns to normal, not only you got a much tidier, cleaner, more organised mind working for you, working with you, it will put you in a much better place, ready for when we're properly out of this. Or if you're listening to this in 2021 or something beyond, and lockdown's gone and COVID-19 is just a horrible memory in the past, this is still relevant. What I'm saying is at any point in our lives, we will always benefit from working on our thoughts. We will always benefit from doing it habitually being mindful of what it's saying and choosing the right thoughts and tidying it up and making sure it's not getting all just out of hand and unkempt up there in our heads. So no matter when you're listening to this will help you regardless of the timing and the challenges that we're facing or not facing. But we need to get into the habit of doing it. It needs to be as habitual as getting up in the morning and brushing our teeth or going and doing exercise 2 or 3 times a week or whatever your routine is. This needs to be part of our daily or weekly routine. Now, the other thing I would say, of course, if you're listening to this in the current day and we're in the midst of COVID-19, if nothing else has come out of this, and I think a lot has, so that's a foolish statement, but one of the things that has come out of this for me, I think, is just how crucial it is for us to look after ourselves, our health, our fitness, our weight. Not for body image or anything like that, but for our health. The thing that seems to be coming out at the moment is that one of the risk factors with this virus, but of course if we're not in this virus, it's a risk factor anyway, is obesity and diabetes. And often those two things go hand in hand. And underlying, where they've been saying, we've lost lots of these people, but they had underlying health conditions, many underlying health conditions, not by any means all, don't get me wrong, but some of those underlying health conditions can be helped by us. Some heart conditions can be helped by us watching what we eat, watching what we smoke, watching what we drink, watching our activity, sedentary lifestyle, eating the wrong foods, eating too much of the wrong foods, letting our fitness go, drinking too much or smoking too much, and all of that, we've always known they're bad for us. But if we've not known it, or if we've buried our head in the sand a little bit and denied it to ourselves, never has it been more clear than now that obesity and diabetes and heart conditions and blood pressure conditions, all of those health reasons, if nothing else, it's a reminder that it is crucial that we look after our health. Health is our wealth. Good health makes us rich. So I think one of the things that I'm taking out of this crisis that we're facing at the moment is just how important everything that I've said before. My regular listeners will know that I have been saying this for the last year. We're almost coming up for the year anniversary that I've been running these podcasts. Almost. I think we're on about episode 45 at the moment, so it's not far off. But there has been a regular theme. I have consistently said how important it is for our mental health to be active, to be outside and active. Outside because of vitamin D from the sun. Vitamin D from the sun, just as a reminder, is a natural mood lifter. It's the natural mood lifting hormone or vitamin that we all need. And if we stay inside in factories, offices, on trains, in cars, in houses, with the doors shut, the windows shut, etc., we're inside anything all the time, we are not getting vitamin D from the sun. And you can't get it through the window. So don't think by sitting by the window, your desk being by the window, you're getting it. You are not. You've got to be out there in daylight. It doesn't have to be a bright sunny day, just a daylight. With the daylight on your hands and face, i.e. your skin, for it to soak up for at least 20 minutes a day, or you can do it in batches, an hour or two here and there throughout the week, because it's the only hormone that you store. So you can top it up at the weekends with a long walk. So for mental health reasons, it is crucial that we get outside in nature. Gardening, cutting the grass, watering the plants, going for a walk, going for a cycle ride, walking down by the river, the beach, the woodlands, wherever it is, in a park, green spaces, seeing nature, listening to the bird song, etc. is phenomenally good for your mental health. And that has been a worry for everybody through this crisis, mental health being shut in. So we're allowed to go out. Secondly, sedentary lifestyles. In research in 2016 and 2017, which I've mentioned before, where they encouraged a sedentary lifestyle in one group of people, and in the others they encouraged them to just lead a normal life, whatever that was for them, just carry on as before. Those people who were discouraged to move very much at all, they were encouraged to just sit and work at a desk all day if they could, or sit still, not move, not walk to the shops, not anything like that, just sit as much as they could, sit in the evenings and watch Netflix, whatever, just have a really sedentary lifestyle. Within a week, just a week, those people in that group reported increased stress within a week and decreased mental well-being, so depression. So just a week. So bear in mind in lockdown, if we're being forced to stay in, if we do literally stay inside, we are going to be depleted in vitamin D, and we're going to be having that sedentary lifestyle unless we're doing lots of Joe Wicks or yoga or whatever in front of the TV or up and down the stairs or out in the garden. So if one lesson has come from this COVID-19 crisis is that we must get outside in nature. We must be active and look after ourselves. We must watch what we eat and our weight and our obesity and our diabetes and things, because that can be reversed. Type 2 diabetes can be reversed. It's a lifestyle change that we need to make. Doing exercise strengthens our lungs. This is a lung issue. Cutting back on cigarettes if we're a cigarette smoker, or giving up. Cutting back on alcohol, because that's all added calories, etc., and affects our liver, etc. So we really must take from this, when lockdown's lifted and life returns to normal, how massively important for so many reasons, not just this virus, but for so many other reasons, for heart, blood pressure, our liver, our kidneys, our lungs, our overall weight, our circulatory system, everything benefits if we look after ourselves. And that has been a stark reminder of that from this virus. Actually, I wasn't even planning to say that, so I've gone off down a tangent, as is my wont. What I also think, though, so if we're looking after ourselves physically, then that is fantastic, brilliant. I really wholeheartedly encourage that. But don't forget the missing part, the crucial missing part, which is also look after the mindset. So how can you do that? How can you have a spring clean, an ongoing spring clean? How can we address this? Well, for me, the biggest, most powerful thing that we can do in life, actually, in so many areas, the one thing that's crucial is questions. Asking great questions. I remember when I was in pharmaceutical sales, that's where I started as a trainer originally. I worked for a pharmaceutical company, but initially it was just in sales, it wasn't in training. And so when I was doing sales, when I was learning to be a salesperson, going through the training for it, one of the first things we were taught is not what lots of people think, which is have the gift of the gab and just tell them everything about this product, tell them all about the benefits and the features, and then close the sale. It's not that. It's not that you do all the talking by far. In sales, in fact, not that at all. It's completely reversed. The crucial thing in sales is to ask questions. We in particular were selling to doctors. And so the key was we would first ask questions. When you have a patient that presents to you who's got this, and this profile, what do you tend to prescribe? What's your preferred method? Really, what makes you go for that? What is it in particular that you like about that? And if that doesn't work, what do you then move on to? And what dose and what do you find? What have you been finding is the worst side effects or something like that? We were taught to ask lots of questions. And bizarrely, at that time, I also started to learn in my own private life. I started to expand my own knowledge by doing weekend workshops and an evening class and things like that. I was doing extra studies alongside my career in counselling skills to build on my psychology degree, and also some CBT training, and then moved on to do some coaching, to start studying coaching. And that too relies hugely. The biggest tool we have as a coach is questioning skills. That's our toolkit, is to ask the right question that gets the client to think of things they haven't thought about and come up with their own solution. It gets them to change the way they're habitually seeing something, see it from a different point of view, see a different option, see a different future and a pathway, and then start taking that, and you support them along the way. So as a coach, our biggest tool and skill set is questioning skills. As a salesperson, the biggest toolkit skill or the great armour that we had, the great approach that we used, was to ask the right questions. Because if we didn't find out what the customer needed, if as a salesperson you don't know what they need, you can't sell to their need. It's a scattergun approach. You're chucking everything at it and you hope it fits. It doesn't. I remember when I was a salesperson, actually, and I was allowed an upgrade. I was due an upgrade. It had done so many. My car had done the required thousands of miles that it has to, and you're meant to renew it. So I've been told to go out and decide what my next car was. So I remember going into a showroom. I knew what I wanted, because I was on the road. I had a huge territory, and I covered hundreds of miles a day. Well, maybe not hundreds, certainly hundreds of miles a week. I was in my car loads. This is quite a long time ago. And they'd only just started to introduce air conditioning. It wasn't standard in every car by far. And a few cars were beginning to have cup holders. Well, as a sales rep, actually, for me, those two things were quite a must. They were quite important for me because I was in the car virtually all day, and I needed occasionally to have a bottle of drink or a can of drink or a hot drink, and be able to just have that in a cup holder in the car that was safe and wouldn't fall and so on. Also because I literally covered miles and miles every day. I didn't even live on territory. I had to drive to my territory first and then all around it. It would get very hot in the summer, excruciatingly hot. And so once air conditioning came out, I really, really would have loved air conditioning. So those were the two things I needed in a car. I remember going into a car showroom and a car guy coming up to me, and he just sold at me. This. He didn't ask me a single question. And I left without buying anything. If he'd asked me, what do you really crucial. What's a nice to have and what's a must have for you? What are you specifically looking for? I'd have told him instantly the 2 things I was looking for. He could then have found me, well, this is what you need here. It's over here. Come and sit in here. Feel how cool this is when we've had this on, how fast this gets really cool. How quickly would you need to get the air chilled down when you're in the height of the summer, scorching hot, in business clothes, you need the car to cool down. Look how fast this is. And the cup holder. I know those sound so irrelevant, but for me, they were so crucial. It's a small example of how, if you ask the right questions, you can then fill the need. And it's much easier. Same with a coaching client. If I'm coaching a client, I need to ask the right questions. So there's no point me asking a couple of general questions and then getting into what's interesting. For example, we're taught to ask the right questions and stay on the relevant goal. So if somebody, let's say this is not a relevant subject at all, but let's say they're not sure whether to go on holiday, they're having a big debate with their family, falling out with their husband about the holiday, etc., and the whys and wherefores of the cost and so on. If I at that point then asked, well, where are you thinking of going? That is not relevant. It makes no difference to their outcome. It's not for them and their agenda. That would be for me and my interest. Irrelevant. I wouldn't ask that question. It's not important. It's not sticking to task. What I need to know is what their views are, why they're falling out and what the difference is, and get them to see a different option. So I would need to be asking the right questions. The wrong question would be, where are you thinking of? Wrong. That serves no purpose. That doesn't move them forward. It doesn't help them solve the problem. So asking questions is a massive skill in life. Asking the right questions is the icing on the cake. And this is what, and you know from previous episodes, I'm always trying to encourage you to become your own coach. So therefore, what I'm saying here, if there's one key takeaway from today's podcast, is to start asking yourselves questions. It's not just to give in to your thoughts today and not just give in to your emotions. I'm feeling fed up. Oh, I'm feeling down today. Oh, I'm feeling really angry, or whatever it is, feeling anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? What am I thinking that's making me feel anxious? What thoughts and what internal chatter am I running that's making me feel this way? So ask yourself some questions, and then ask yourself, how is that thought helping me? How is telling myself, what if this happens and that happens and so on? How is that helping me? Is that thought helping me move forward? Is that thought helpful? Is that thought encouraging me to have a go anyway? Is that thought holding me back? Is that thought creating this emotion, and is that thought making me feel worse? How can I change that thought? Am I in charge of that thought? So it's ask yourself questions. If you're feeling a particular way, it is because you are thinking in a particular way. If someone's upset you, really upset because he said this and she said that, or they haven't done this, or they promised me that, it's not that that's upsetting you. It's what you're thinking about that's upsetting you. And so therefore, how can I change what I'm thinking about that? Or how can I do something about this? It may be that you need to take some action. What actions do I need to take to solve this? And what would that do? If I were to do X, Y, and Z, what might the outcomes be? Is that an outcome I want? So it's questions all the time. So instead of it's you just letting your mind run riot like an unruly toddler with no boundaries and no safety checks, etc., that's a bit like us with our minds sometimes. We just give in and accept it. We don't question it. Now is to go in your head. First, notice what you're saying and what thoughts you're running, and notice what they are causing you to feel, because your feelings will always be as a result of what you're saying in your head. Do you want to feel this way? If you don't, then what are the thoughts around it? and how might you change those? How might you improve those? What are they doing for you? Are they serving you? If not, what can you do about it? What are your actions? Are you procrastinating? What should you be doing? What are you avoiding? About your food, about your health, about your sedentary lifestyle or your active lifestyle, or what else could you try, or what else could you do? It's about not giving in, no matter what scenario we're in, no matter what challenges you're facing right now. Even if you're listening to this in 2022 and you've got a few challenges in front of you, or a few issues, or a few things that aren't going so well, ask yourself questions. Scientists, if they ask themselves the right questions, this can be the breakthrough in science. It's looking at things in a different way and asking different questions. Why might that be working? What's the relationship between that? And what does that cause this to do, and why? It's asking questions in science that moves scientists forward and gets them their breakthroughs. Doctors, GPs with patients, they have to ask the right questions, not just take on face value what symptom they're bringing. They have to ask a much bigger picture. Does this happen? Have you been experiencing that? Have you had much of this and this? Has this been happening? It's all about questions. If we get skilled in life, whether it's with our children, our family, with our partners, with customers, if you're in business, if you're in sales, if it's with a negotiation with your boss about your salary, whatever it is, if you're a coach or a therapist or a doctor, it doesn't matter what you are. If you can ask great questions, you are ahead of the game. It puts you in a really good position. The trick then, of course, is to listen to the answer. That's another skill set, and that's probably another podcast episode. But for you, with your own development now, I would say, as a result of this podcast, go inside your head, like I've often said, notice what you're saying, be aware of it. That's half the battle. And then ask yourself some cracking questions. Why am I thinking that? Why am I feeling this? Why do I want that as an outcome? How is that going to help? Is this the right thought? Is this the right feeling for me? Am I moving in the right direction? How might I move in the right direction? What's stopping me? Etc., etc. So there's a whole host of great questions. What's good about this scenario? What's the benefit of this? If there were anything good here, what would it be? If I could do anything about this, what would it be? What might other people do about this? How might others react to this? That gives you a different view as well. That gets you unstuck in just your tunnel vision and gets you thinking about how others might see it. And therefore, it gives you a choice to change it. So learn some great questioning techniques. Ask yourself some great questions. Then listen to the answer. And then potentially, depending on what comes up, you might change either your thoughts, therefore your feelings, or your actions, or your actions. So I hope that's been really helpful. It's a great skill to have. You can never not benefit from having it as a skill set. So it's definitely worth practicing, both for business, family interactions, friendships, but for more importantly, for your own benefit. So let me know, drop me a line. Share your experiences, share your thoughts with me, share your successes, and not. At any time, Dawn at milestone-coaching.co.uk. And I really, really look forward to hearing from you. I'm hearing from more and more of you, and it's great. It brings me so much pleasure because I know then I'm doing the right thing with these podcasts. Please, if depending on the platform that you listen to this on, if it gives you the opportunity to write a review, please, that would be a massive favour if you could, because what that does is it helps other people. It puts it up in the rankings or something about algorithms. I'm not entirely sure, but it helps others to find the podcast, and they may well be struggling at the moment. It may well be just what they need right now. So you'll be sort of gifting it on, passing it forward, really. So have a great week. Take care of yourselves. Have a good old declutter. And I'm really, really looking forward to talking to you on next week's episode of Life Coaching on the Move. All the best.